everybody, and welcome to Movie Battleground. This is your host right here, Jonathan the Rat the Master Pack. You might see my beautiful face right here around Sports Brawl, but this time I'm judging movies this time around, and I got these beautiful people on this bottom of my screen right here to compete with it. And let's go into our players indeed. Today's contestants are some friendly faces throughout your scene. Starting out with this lovely gentleman right here. You know him as the Wool Wolf, Mr. Chris Diaz. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing good. This is my debut match. It's going to be fun. And I'm interested to see, based on the question we have, how this augment going to turn out.
All right. And your first match. And if you have some first match, Jared's right over here. It's okay. You'll get through with it. I know I have. So let's go into the competitor you'll be facing. And you might recognize him some previous matches that he judged, though. And even way before that, he's competing in Movie Battleground with an okay record. I'll just say that. We got Madeeh right here, though. How you doing, Madeeh?
I'm good, man. I'm good. How you been?
Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
A little bit mundane day, basically.
No, it's a Monday. I get that. No, I'm excited to get back into the competing side. I was heavy on the competing in trivia and debate way back when this first started, so I was kind of one of the original guys in these leagues. And then, life situation, you get into school, you have to pay for it, so didn't have as much time. Did judge every now and then, but now summer holidays and COVID giving me an opportunity to bring my record up a little bit.
All right. Understandable. And before we start, let's go into our judges right here who will help me judge through this match right here. Next to my screen right here, we got a charming fellow right here. We got Mr. JB3. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm excited. I haven't judged an actual debate match in a while now. And I'm pretty sure this might be my first Movie Battleground that I'm debating, and I'm excited. I've been actually amped up for this for probably about a week now. So I'm excited to be here, and I'm ready to judge.
All right. Help with both of us to judge. We got Hot Fuzz himself, Mr. Joe Farrelly. How you doing, Joe?
Yeah, not doing too badly. Day off today, day off tomorrow, so I can be up at 1:15 in the morning my time to judge these things.
Okay. All right. Let's go into sort of the ground rules before we start the match. For those of you who are sort of new right here to Movie Background, you can jump at this video the first time. Here are some of the following rules along with it. So basically, it's this: before the debate started, both our competitors have 1 minute extensions. If you both of you willing to use it, you're only going to use it for your opening or your closing during the 4 main rounds right here. And also, not only that, when timer begins during debate, we got sort of 90 seconds on your opening, 5 minutes when you debate, and 60 seconds on your closing. That's how Movie Battleground works, and that's what it works on many debates throughout this community works. So, with that being out of the way, is everybody ready? All right. Let's get it on right here. Let's start Movie Battleground right here. Let's go into question number 1 in the world of the 1990s. And we got very interesting question in the world of the 90s is this. Which 90s standalone horror film should get a sequel? Since I believe is Mr. Chris Diaz's category of choice, we start with him with his selection.
So with mine, I went to look at many 90s movies. The one that stood out to me, and I just played a little bit of a choice. So a couple years after the events of 7, Madeeh Ur Rehman gets called to a crime scene. A woman mutilated that is pregnant, that is obvious sign of like one of the similar to what the man from 7 said a deadly sin, but it's pregnant, mutilated, and he realized that the crime spree are starting again. And Brad Pitt, who's been released after many years, he had Brad Pitt to still be a partner to investigate it. Little did we know if the killer started to turn out to be Brad Pitt, who'd been traumatized by the event of his wife had being the boss by Kevin Spacey, that he feel like no woman deserves to have babies, like that he feel like his job to put out the sin for any woman who cheat on their husband, any woman who is pregnant, anything in order to avoid the painful sadness of what happened to his wife. And I think, especially with David Fincher coming back to direct, especially Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman, I think a great sequel that should be made off a fantastic horror movie. I would go into more detail why this is better than my opponent, but I'll give up my time.
All right. We got 7 from Chris. Let's go to Madeeh here for his selection.
So I went with a Tim Burton movie from the 90s called Sleepy Hollow. So for those of you who have not seen it, Sleepy Hollow is it's basically the story of the Headless Horseman, told through Tim Burton's beautiful visual stylings. Johnny Depp is a phenomenal performance in it as basically like an early days forensic scientist before forensics even exists. And it's a brilliant clash of him coming at it through a science perspective and then seeing something mystical in front of his eyes. So I really want to explore that universe more, and I really would love to have Tim Burton and Johnny Depp come back into the role. Johnny Depp is due for some good news right about now, so let's get Sleepy Hollow 2 out there.
Ryan's going to see his time. Good news to find out, but okay. I forgot the... Sorry. 2 very good choices indeed with Sleepy Hollow and 7. Let's go with a 5-minute debate when one of you begins talking.
Madeeh, man, let's get this out of the way. Sleepy Hollow is a good choice, but it's a one-done film because if you do it outside the legend of the Headless Horseman and Ichabod Crane, it becomes something else.
Man.
And Tim Burton, he hasn't done anything good in recent years.
Oh, you're getting ahead of yourself. I was going to get there. Don't worry.
David Fincher at least had done great movie after great movie. His last movie being Gone Girl was fantastic.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to say about that. Tim Burton needs a return to form. Dumbo did not work. A couple of his other previous movies did not work as well as I wanted him. You know what the last movie of his that I liked was Sweeney Todd. Sweeney Todd came out in 2007. It was a brilliant movie, musical piece with Alan Rickman and Jason and Johnny Depp as well. And that was the last time really that we saw Johnny Depp and Tim Burton doing both phenomenal work that we know that they're capable of. Yeah, Johnny Depp has a couple other movies like Black Mass and the Pirates movies, if you like those. But I really think that Tim Burton needs that return to form, whereas David Fincher is doing whatever the hell he wants and whenever he wants to. I don't think he wants to do another sequel like he did when he did Aliens.
But when
Aliens
you look
3,
at
rather.
when you look at the possibility where you could go with 7, there's plenty of potential possibility, especially showing the aftermath what happened with Brad Pitt. Like, what if
The
he became
aftermath. Here's the thing. One of the best parts of that movie.
What he became, and yeah, by becoming the thing killer with Kevin Spacey, that interesting. Sleepy Hollow, like, it's a really good movie. It kind of like surfing on a Headless Horseman. Without that, it just become a different type of movie. You can't call it Sleepy Hollow at all.
Okay, you can't call it Sleepy Hollow, but you can call it a number of other things.
Yeah,
There's a lot of mystical creatures and horror-style creatures that would blend in perfectly with this kind of movie.
Then it would become another.
For example,
what I doing type of shit that may hit some of his work me like McPound being bad. Like
no, it's
Alice
not.
in Wonderland bad. Like
No.
He would leave the focus on the story, but David Fincher, he just keep it kind and contained and keep it his own. And you get bring Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman back.
I can guarantee you David Fincher does not want to do another 7 movie. A couple of reasons why. Number one of the best parts of 7, even though it had limited screen time, and we're not supposed to talk about him anymore, was Kevin Spacey's performance as the killer. He was so creepily scary, and we know now why he was very creepily scary, but that's not, like, he was one of the best parts of it. Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt had a very good kind of like older statesman and the new young cop coming in. And with the pitch that you gave, I got to tell you, I don't think Brad Pitt would get another job in a police department or have to like be put back into that kind of situation. If he's in jail for 25 plus years and he's still psychotic, they don't let him out of jail, man. He's staying there. The story doesn't work after 7. 7 is such a perfectly constructed movie that it fits
with Sleepy
as
Hollow.
A self-contained movie. Sleepy Hollow, the character of Johnny Depp as someone who's a forensic scientist who all of a sudden sees something mystical, I want to see that brought to other creatures. It doesn't just have to be the Headless Horseman. If you have, and I'm just naming because I'm not very smart with other creatures that are out there, but like having something like a vampire attack and he has to go and investigate how that would work, or if he has to go and investigate like a werewolf sort of situation, or like Frankenstein's monster suddenly appears and you got to find him,
But then
or
it would turn
even Poltergeist. No
and
matter
that
what
would
you go
turn
into, it's going to be a fun movie because there's so many different avenues that you can go. Even if it is more popular ones, you can go into the offbeat ones.
Yeah. Okay, let me. But Sleepy, it's up behind the Johnny Depp vehicle again. Johnny Depp already have the Harry Potter franchise at the moment, and he needs something that would redeem him to it, not going to another weird character that already been. But definitely, you to do it like Brad Pitt would become a consultant. He doesn't have to become a detective because he could, like every team in plenty of like the Hannibal Lecter stuff. They hire Hannibal Lecter as a consultant for the case. And the idea that Brad Pitt messed up in his head that he's doing what Kevin Spacey did, kind of that what David Fincher does better when you look at Amy from Gone Girl. When you look at a bunch of other stuff, he's a psychological character. What damage to be done to a character that makes it crack? And who wants to see like how Brad Pitt is like, and Morgan Freeman, like the chemistry together, especially with David Fincher's writing, it's perfect. Tim Burton have.
Morgan Freeman would be a retired cop by now. He was on the verge of retirement at the end of that movie. That movie works as a self-contained feature.
Yeah.
All right. Two very interesting cases for both of your films. And I think this is going to be a very interesting one on your closing. So since we start with Chris, let's go with Madeeh for his 60-second closing. Timer begins when you begin talking.
Okay, the movie 7, let's get it out of the way. It works as a self-contained feature, and following afterwards, like, what has it been, 25, 30 years later, it's not really as intriguing anymore. Morgan Freeman's character would be retired and definitely doesn't want anything more to do with this. Hell, I wouldn't have been surprised if he just retired and died from the stress. Brad Pitt, I don't think he would have stayed sane, and he would definitely just be either insane or have committed suicide based on the character development. And Kevin Spacey does not need to be working in Hollywood anymore, and I don't think having anything to do with that would work. David Fincher is doing phenomenal work in other shows. He doesn't need to be doing sequels anymore. I want him to do more of the original work that he's so profound for. Sleepy Hollow is one of those movies that you're intrigued by the characters as much as you are anything else. The visual stylings of the movie is beautiful. As I said, the mystical elements are intriguing, and I want to see Johnny Depp come back into the visual eye that we see him, and Tim Burton as well. He needs a comeback, and going back to something he's done before is good.
All right. Very good closing from Madeeh. Let's go with Chris right here for his closing. 60 seconds will begin when you begin talking.
When Madeeh is suggesting is that the same shit we got from Tim Burton time again, and that what we don't need. Seven allowed the idea that I gave you a story that, seeing it from much perspective, what happened to Brad Pitt after the movie is interesting. Johnny Depp needs a career in dramatic, not action or fantasy. With mine at least, it would be a good combination of David Fincher and Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt come back together. And there've been women before about another 7 being made. This should happen. Just like a DA. Seeing the psychological tragedy, seeing Morgan Freeman eventually had to kill his friend to stop the killing things from happening is a more interesting idea. And that's what David Fincher has done best. And right now, he needs another film that might have to on hold. And seeing the crime element, the horrific element that made 7 so creepy in the first place, and you should do more with it, like you did with Women of Humanity, more traumatizing and speak to the psychological views of Brad Pitt. And done.
All right.
Good point.
All right. Very good closing for Chris. Fellow judges, write down the name of the person who gets the point, including myself.
Madeeh, good job. That you had me on both.
I should have told you beforehand. All of the other fights I've been in, I go at it. So
yeah,
I should have warned you beforehand. But you're bringing it for your first fight. For this being your first movie Battlegrounds, hell of a job so far.
Yeah.
All right.
JB3, you're not burning up?
Okay. All right. I'm gonna start with me because okay. While he's showing up his fan, I'm just gonna show my answer. Who gets the point? For me, I think the person I wrote for my point is Madeeh because I think he put some more examples. Why Sleepy Hollow might be a perfect opportunity for a sequel, though, and he pointed out some examples right here. What about the more story about Ichabod Crane and shows an example even outside of the Headless Horseman. Basically, even though you didn't specifically mention it, but some of the creatures like mentioned Wolfman, the other monsters, all that stuff is sort of loosely based on like animal horror along with it, even though you didn't specifically mention it, but it has some shades of that along with it. With Chris, I was kind of you were trying to sort of like the Silence of the Lambs idea with mainly Brad Pitt's character. It's more of a mentoring role, but I didn't hear enough of it. A little bit more based off that with Seven though, so I would give my point to Madeeh. So he's got one on Madeeh. Let's go with JB Theme for his next choice.
You know, Jonathan, if I would have went first, I would have said the exact words you said. For the reasons and everything, I gave my point to Madeeh because of the same exact reasons. And the same thing for Chris. I really love the consultant idea. It's just I didn't hear enough of it. Madeeh was really on form with his examples, and you both were great with rebuttals. I mean, you guys were rebuttaling, countering all, especially during the debate round. But all in all, just more examples and just pure form for Madeeh.
All right. With that, Madeeh takes the point for round one. Joe, your point wouldn't matter. Which point were you going to?
So I think the interesting thing here is both did a good job at pitching their sequels, but I also believe Madeeh gave just a little bit more about why Sleepy Hollow deserved the sequel over Seven, because he main comment was that Seven was a self-contained story and that Finch had told that story he needed to tell, whereas Sleepy Hollow opened up possibilities of more. So on the point of what deserves a sequel, I think he argued better for why Sleepy Hollow deserves a sequel. But Chris's pitch for the Seven sequel was also pretty good. All
right, would have been a clean sweep. All right, there's one on Madeeh right here. With that, let's go into round number two. Round number two in the world of comic book movies. And this is an interesting question. And when I first got into it, so this interesting question was this. What was the best action sequence in Zack Snyder's Watchmen? So since it's Madeeh's strength with comic book films, let's go with him for his selection.
All right, so let's get off the bat. I love the movie Watchmen. I think it's a phenomenal film, both visually and on how it adapts the comic book, but that's neither here nor there. That's more of my just opinion. The sequence that I chose in the movie, there's a character called Rorschach who is played by Jackie Earle Haley. He wears a mask which has the Rorschach images over it. As he's investigating the murder of the comedian, he is cornered and trapped by police officers. So his escape from this apartment building with a dead man inside, he is now being framed for the murder of, his escape from that police custody and his fight against the onslaught of about 20 or 30 police officers that he has to go up against, that's the sequence I'm going into. And I'll get more into it why I chose that action scene in the debate round, but that's the scene that I'm going with.
All right, let's go with Chris for his selection.
Okay. So when I was Watchmen is a fantastic movie. I prefer the director cut and the ultimate cut, but in terms of Watchmen for the best action sequence, and the moment you remember the most, it's the opening fight scene between comedian and the intruder, which later turned out to be Ozymandias. It's what Zack Snyder does best for his over-top action, to the epic moment like throwing the knife, then throwing the other like the butcher knife and the guy catching it, the hand being chopped, like to the music Unforgettable by Nat King Cole, to the moment while comedian being thrown out the window with the blood on the happy face thing, and the line like it's all a joke. Like it's what Zack Snyder does best. It's the bad like one-on-one fight that catches what Watchmen does well, and a very even fight. They go back and forth, fighting, one punch the wall. like, and the gun and everything. And what the fight you remember more from Watchmen? That set up the epicness of what the movie we have ahead of us. And I will go into my argument why mine is a fight compared to his, but not really a fight per se. Like, but they're all great. And I'm picking the comedian versus Ozymandias fight in the beginning for 10 minutes in the movie.
All right. Okay. Two very good sequences indeed for Watchmen, the movie, though. And I just want to get this out of the way. I also like the movie, so I just there. Let's just go with the. That's the part. Thank you. Let's start with the 5-minute debate when you begins talking.
I gotta say this, man. As much as I love the opening scene and what it entails for the rest of the movie, the thing with Rorschach against the police is it doesn't need superpowers, whereas the Ozymandias comedian fight kind of does use them. And this is going to be a little bit weird for me to say, but superpowers don't necessarily make the action sequence.
I know, but
you can have a great action sequence without them, and this encounter that Rorschach has with the police department proves that.
It's not really a fight per se, just that one on fire, he jumped out the window, he tried to put out a fight, they grab and unmask him. The fight is just like...
No, I think you need to rewatch it.
Of him hiding, him setting one of them on fire, jumping out the window, escape, him fighting them one-on-one, and then touching it down, taking out the man, like, oh, I'm mad. My fight is not even one-on-one battle. It's music, it's like to the unforgettable financing code, to the classic button with the blood on a smiley face. Like, it's everything that
both of these scenes are classic and straight from the comic book. Like, if you compare the panels to what they see on the screen.
You're fighting not really a fight. It's just watch that escape.
Well, that's not the question, though. The question is what's the best action sequence?
And you're seeing
that
not
doesn't
really
mean fight. It is an action sequence. It gets your heart pumping. It goes for it. I don't understand what else you need in an action sequence. He grabs a lighter and a spray can and starts spraying like from a homemade flamethrower. I don't understand what else you need from my action sequence. If you're saying this isn't an action sequence, then most of Mad Max isn't an action sequence. Like,
but when you look at I love to
let me say this.
One out all of them. You could have gone with the prison fight, on the Ozymandias versus Rorschach and Night Owl fight. Those are better fights.
I don't think so. I think that one relied a little bit too much on slow motion, and I think that
all of Watchmen is slow. Like mine, late with my opening, it used even later slow motion.
Here's the difference, though. Yeah. In our scene, slow motion is used well. The other scene that we're not even arguing about doesn't use it very well, in my opinion.
Yeah, but your scene is just like one and done. It's just him.
The comedian versus Ozymandias isn't really an equal fight. Like, the comedian is definitely outmatched, heavily outmatched by Ozymandias.
But he still pulls up a fight. Like he
puts up a fight as much as he can, but he's still way past his prime. He's not going to do anything, and it's really more of a beatdown. That doesn't take away from the fact that it's a brilliant action sequence, but it's just not as good. One person beating up another person without really much happening back and forth. Yeah, it's not as enticing as one person going up against an army. And that's not something you see in action movies.
Defeat one, but they're not even fight because they...
Listen, how many action movies do we see that there's 1 versus 1 or an army versus an army or like 5 on 5 or whatever? Having the sequence...
Fight. It's just him escaping and then barely putting up a
That's
fight
still an action sequence.
It's just
still
not really
qualifies.
All right, guys. I'm giving a 5 second. I'm gonna give a 5 second count out. Things got very heated. All right, let's give it 5 seconds. Like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
This is why I got kicked out of competing the first time, by the way.
When you think of action sequence, you think of the opening. You think of the iconic button with the blood smiling face. You think of, all the joke man, him being thrown out the window. You think of, like, him throwing the knife, him and Ozymandias catching the butcher knife, and then chopping some comedian's finger off. Like, those are the moments that make Watchmen brilliant action sequence, brilliant choreography by that Snyder compared to the rest of the movie.
It's great choreography, but I will say this: it's
choreography.
From a choreography standpoint, it's much easier to do a one-on-one fight versus a one-on multiple people fight. When you look at action sequences in movie history, most of them do not include one versus many because it's
But-
difficult to choreograph and it's hard to figure out when the person goes down. You know it's a losing fight for Rorschach, but you're still tense in the fact that you want him to escape. You haven't seen his face, but you know that he's the kind of character that needs to escape and needs to keep his identity,
I know, but
his other face, a secret. Him going up against the police officers, spraying them with a flamethrower, beating the shit out of them as they're trying to break in. Even the beginning where they try and sledgehammer the door handle so they can break in, and then he opens the door so he loses his balance and he goes a little bit too far. Even that was brilliant. There's so much in the action sequence with Rorschach.
Be too right. The comedian knowing
It's
that
harder to do a multiple versus one than it is a one-on-one when it's just a beatdown. It's more exciting to see the ending.
Time, guys, take that time. Damn.
I get heart palpitations when I'm judging, and this is around the same level. So I don't know what I need to do on this channel anymore. Like this is.
I told you about the day go easy on you on this one. You know.
All right. Yeah. You think I had that broth right here? Taller than me sometimes. All right. All right. Let's go into your closings. And start off with Chris with his closing. 60 seconds will begin when you begin talking.
The question is, what is the best action sequence in Watchmen? Mine have everything from the choreography to the knife throwing, the butcher knife, to the gun, the punching the wall, to the throwing out the window. They have everything that make Watchmen is. It engaged people in the first 10 minutes. With the iconic button with the blood, to it all a joke. Madeeh is not really action sequence. Rorschach's finest escape from one cool moment, no music, that make Watchmen usually it is. You remember Unforgivable by Nat King Cole. You don't remember much from the Rorschach piece like, not my man. It's just lame, not the best action. It's one of the weakest one. It's just not great choreography, nothing that speaks to the character. Like comedian and argumenting it, you see the history, you see the comedian at his real life. He really gonna put up a fight despite his old age. That speaks to who the character of. Rorschach is just him escaping out a window. Nothing exciting.
Time.
Just
All right. Let's go to Madeeh for his closing. Let's go with him right here for his closing. 60 seconds will begin when you begin talking.
All right, I'm just going to start rebutting a bunch of things that you said. Number one, it is an action sequence no matter how you look at it. He's fighting a bunch of police officers. He sprays a couple of them with a flamethrower. He's even beating the shit out of a couple of them before he gets taken down by a group of about 6 of them. He takes off, they take off his mask and he starts screaming, "Not my face," is a huge character moment, and it shows the ability of Jackie Earle Haley's acting range, not only in that movie, but in general. He's phenomenal in the role, and he's hands down most people's favorite part of the movie. Now, when you go into how the choreography works, a one-on-one fight is much easier to choreograph, and it's easier to do well. Whereas one on multiple fight scene is very difficult to choreograph, and they still did it really well. So in terms of what a better action sequence is, I gotta go with my choice because it's a harder scene to pull off, and it's done really well. It's pulled by Jackie Earle Haley's performance as Rorschach, and they're both iconic. Let's be real. He's going from the script. It's basically taken from the comic book in both those sequences.
All right.
God damn it.
All right.
good job.
Yeah.
We
Hell of
knew
a show,
that for
bro.
today be.
right.
What he did one.
All right. Let me write down who gets the
I
point.
need to take a little bit of something here. Hang on.
While you're doing... Okay, while you two drinking off right here, let's go to our judges right here and start with JB3 for his thoughts on the argument and who gets the point and why.
Man, what a round! What a round, Chris. I had you in the lead for most of this. You were really bringing it. Towards the end of the debate, I thought he started to get a little bit lost in. Not necessarily lost, just not finishing, and then in the end, for the last statement, Madeeh really took over for me, and he actually won me over with that last bit, so I had to give my point to Madeeh.
All right. We got 1-0 Madeeh. Let's go to the Hot Fuzz himself, Joe Farrelly, right here, for his thoughts on the argument and who gets the point and why.
I think I could write a whole debate about. I could write a debate arguing why Chris won. I could write a debate arguing about how Madeeh won. That was a really, really good fight. I think at points Chris got a little repetitive, just saying it's not an action sequence. I think Madeeh did really well to counterbalance that. But Chris also got into. He gave examples of better scenes that Madeeh could use. He spoke about the choreography. He spoke about the music. He spoke about it being more memorable. He talked about the back and forth, about how some of the scenes, especially the blood stain on the button, was more compelling. Madeeh did counter that really well, talking about, giving examples of why it's an action sequence, mentioning the flamethrower, mentioning the extra cops coming in, and it's how it relentlessly, how it does speak to the character of Rorschach. So it was really tough, but I just think in terms of examples given, he was quite ruthless in the 5 minutes about the amount of examples he could give. So I'm going to give my point to Chris.
All right, it's 1-1 tie, and okay, it's up to me. Same thing with Joe. Both of you pull up really good, compelling arguments right here. While your action scene is a very more well choreographed or well made along with it, and as for my take, what I hear, it's like I'm not going to call it which action scene or is not action scene. That's almost very subjective. But that being said, though, the person who gets the point in my eyes is Madeeh, because he had to put some more examples and more details why his action scenes is not only a well-made one, but is more compelling on the sequence himself with Rorschach. And compare to, and what's really sold on me is basically the number of people he has to fight. With Chris, it's mainly a one-to-one combat, which is a very good sequence. And Madeeh put out some very more example where I have not only more people right here, but why the sequence itself is well fine on though. So to get my point to Madeeh, and we also with that, Madeeh takes the lead with 2-0 Madeeh. All right.
My heart rate now is 250. That's my heart rate right now.
All right.
I don't know if that's safe, but fuck
I
it.
can do this.
Okay then. All right. With that, and we got a situation here for Chris along with it. So, Chris needs to get this point to avoid a knockout. So, this is do or die, Chris, right here. And let's go into question number 3 in the world of action adventure. With Chris picks this category and bring this. We all know the Fast and Furious movies. Not pretty much all people in the world. And we all know they pretty much continue to make movies right here, 9 to 10 films along with it. And the brains will point out an interesting question. With the Fast and Furious series continuing the 9 and 10th installments, how would you end the franchise on the 10th film? Let's start off with Chris for his pitch to how to end the franchise.
So when it comes to the Fast and Furious, all about ridiculous action sequence, about family, about everything. So it's like, and I look back to see what Paramount also had beside the studios who does Fast and Furious. They also have Back to the Future, like Back to the Future with cars. So when the 10th Fast and Furious movie, a call come out and over, and Doc Brown come out saying, "We need you. The future is overwhelmed by all of your villains for the past. They take it over every time period. Medieval." Donate the future, the moon, everything, and Vin Diesel and everybody had to play card that to similar to DeLorean to go back to the future and the past to save the world for the villain that they accidentally create. And it crazy. They have like card shaped on the moon. They have card shaped in the medieval time. They have everything that made Fast and Furious, even no matter how ridiculous time period and how unbelievable, that what made Fast and Furious crazy. And then you had Doc Brown being and Mounty McFly coming into the end, being family, and helping them out. And it did be epic. It did be bittersweet, and it did all end up with them hanging out in the future, drinking Diet Coke, sitting at the bar, watching John feed the whatever they up to now, and just family all together, and it did be the most
right. Okay, you point out time travel, you point out Jaws. It's like, okay, I can't wait for the rest of the 5-minute argument to try to explain that. But okay, let's go with Madeeh to sort of top that. So,
I feel like that's already the script for Fast and Furious 10, to be honest, because this franchise is so ridiculously stupid. I personally think that they should have ended after the 7th one. I also don't necessarily think they should have gone forward after the first one. But my choice of what they do to end the franchise is kind of follow in the steps of a 1998 classic movie called Armageddon. The premise of Armageddon is a group of oil riggers are sent into space to destroy a asteroid that is heading towards Earth that will cause an extinction level event. Now, the Fast and Furious movies do not take themselves seriously, neither did Armageddon. And I think that these two movies are so perfect for almost like a crossover in a sense, in the fact that they were not qualified to go into space in Armageddon, and these guys are definitely not qualified to go into space either. But let's send them up there because they have family and they have cars. So my idea is that Vin Diesel and the crew, whoever is left at that point and whoever is still being revived, is all sent into space on a giant rocket ship that is shaped like a car onto this asteroid, and they are split apart to try and destroy this asteroid before it gets to Earth. It essentially follows step by step what happens in Armageddon until it gets to the ending. So essentially it's Armageddon, but with Vin Diesel saying family every 10 minutes.
Okay, then. Fast and Armageddon. Okay. I gotta write it down right here. All right. I don't know how we're gonna go with it, but I was like, fuck it, let's just do it. All right, let's start with a 5-minute debate with one of you begins talking.
Okay, let me tell you, both ideas are ridiculous, but mine will incorporate everything that made Fast and Furious is. Even incorporate family. You Doc Brown, yeah, Monty Red Fly's family. And it doesn't incorporate Doc Brown come back. You're like, Dom, your kid been kidnapped. They brought him to the future with the moon and everything. Incorporate your NBA again, but they had to fight on the freaking moon. They had to also taking all of the ancestors, all the family, all the down.
This sounds as ridiculous as any other thing. I don't even think the Duke Nukem games were this ridiculous. The Armageddon thing.
The same ridiculous as Nathan.
I wouldn't say so, because I think that at least they could get away with it in Armageddon, whereas Back to the Future involves time travel, and I definitely don't think the writers of the Fast and Furious movies are smart enough to handle time travel.
And they also set up the idea. We know in Bob and Shaw that they had the technology and such, that they had the gene technology to do stuff that we don't see possible. So there is a possibility.
Most of the stuff that they do in these movies is not possible. I don't think that
future timeline like God is possible.
I don't want to spoil Back to
the
the Future by saying it's a Fast and Furious movie. Yeah. I don't want to see somebody souping up a DeLorean with a nitrous booster so that it can go faster than 88 miles an hour within like a second.
Do we want to see the same boring story of Armageddon put in Fast and Furious? No, we won't.
I don't think Armageddon was that boring. I love that movie. As much as it's an awful movie, it's a guilty pleasure of mine. Back to the Future people love because it's a great movie. Armageddon people love because it's like ridiculously dumb, but it's fun. And I'm hoping that Fast and Furious can be ridiculously dumb but fun in this
when you look at
Final Furious movie. I'm calling it that, by the way. The Final Furious.
And 3, they all were fun but dumb because they repeat the same story. We just getting the same thing.
You know that's what they're going to do. Here's the thing. I don't want to see Doc Brown or anyone from the Back to the Future franchise involved and hurting their own names by being involved with Fast and Furious. Fast and Furious has already taken Dame Helen Mirren. They've already taken Idris Elba, who's a great actor when he can be. They've got so many great actors that they're just putting into shit movies. I don't want to see them also get Doc Brown and Marty McFly and the DeLorean and take away parts of everybody's childhood and just fuck it up. Excuse my language, children, but they're going to fuck it up.
The idea is just like, boy, it's just like, imagine going to the future, imagine going to medieval times, Viking
Here's
times.
The thing. I don't want to see that Dodge Challenger riding next to like King Arthur and the horses. Like it just it's beyond the ridiculousness that I will allow in a Fast and Furious movie. Like the Fast and Furious movies are dumb, but they're not Sharknado dumb. They're just dumb. Like I don't need them to be on that stupid.
and battling an asteroid and not them.
Also, Back to the Future has a lot of family moments as well, but it's not necessarily the family moments that Vin Diesel is down for. I don't think. I don't hope.
That's the whole point of Fast and Furious, family, and it's just
and in Back to the Future, he almost sleeps with his family, but that's not something we want to see Vin Diesel do. Like, I don't want to see him sleep with his kid.
And like, what was Hobbs Shaw like, Connie? Yeah, Connie.
Hobbs and Shaw was fun because Vin Diesel wasn't in it, and they didn't rely on the cars. It was more just a general action movie, and then they went to Maui.
Everything, everyone to end an epic note. Fighting with dinosaurs, fighting with King Arthur, fighting with like battling Queen Victoria, battling like every villain that take all the villains from the other one that they all team up together. This
whole argument is giving me an aneurysm, and I don't want to see it. I really don't. I get dragged to every single one of these goddamn movies by a friend of mine who quote unquote loves them. But I feel like she just loves seeing us suffer. I don't want to see these movies if they're like that ridiculous. I want to see ridiculousness, but not that ridiculous.
Riding along with the dinosaurs on top of T-Rex or riding on horses on top of cars. It's like it's idea.
Listen, I know that he's gonna ride that T-Rex and say this T-Rex isn't gonna eat me because I got family. I don't need that. I really don't. The trailer for the new one that's coming out, where he's somehow defying gravity by turning his car into a giant tire swing. I don't need this. This is ridiculous. They're already going stupid. Might as well send them to space and have Vin Diesel do the sacrifice the way that Bruce Willis did, and then never have this franchise come back ever again.
All I've been hearing you arguing against me. I have yet to hear a story. Like with mine, painting a story.
You know what? I'll give you it in the closing.
Fine. Well, I hope so. Okay.
With the permission of the judges, I would like to just tell the general story in the closing. That's going to be my entire closing. It's going to add points, I know, but I want to make it clear. Like I don't mean to do it to like disavow the argument. I'm just going to go over the general the storyline of my movie, if that's all right.
It's all right. Well, it's all right.
Cool.
This question is a bit crazy. It is, but all right. Let's go with 60 seconds on your closing. Timer begins. Wait, when you begin to.
Am I first?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So the Fast and Furious movies are ridiculous. Let's get that out of the way. We've said that enough times. Armageddon is also stupid. My movie plays out like this. Whoever is survived and whoever is brought back to life is driving around the city of Los Angeles as they do in their muscle cars. And then all of a sudden, the president or Kurt Russell comes to them and says, we need you to destroy an asteroid. There's nobody else for some reason. So they train to go into space. They're told that they need this kind of training. They come together as a family before they're sent into space. Once they're in space, which is something that Fast and Furious fans have been predicting for years, by the way, is finally Fast and Furious in space. You send them into space, they're all planted on each individual area in their own different cars. They drive off to find different points of the meteor, or of the asteroid, and place bombs inside. Once they're there, Paul Walker is also there. He gets back in the ship and tries to save Dom, but Dom doesn't because he makes the ultimate sacrifice to send Paul Walker back to his family again.
Oh my. Okay.
Okay then.
I can see people's brains bleeding after this argument. Like this is JB3 looks like he's about to have a seizure. You all right, JV?
Jonathan having flashback to me on his argument about the same.
Wait, what?
Just do what you need for the next minute, man.
All right, go. Your closing quickly.
Okay. Let's just do this. So mine is incorporate every crazy thing. Incorporate the property that the studio owns for Fast and Furious. Also incorporate everything that made Fast and Furious family. Having Paul Walker's kid kidnapped and bring to the future, they had to go back into the future to save the kid. But all the villains for all the movie team out, you get Idris Elba again. You get Luke Evans again, who turned evil again just for the sake of evil. You get Jason to have you join his brother because he had no trace in matter. And they had to fight about the mind because it's more important. They mean Paul Walker's kid because Brian Kid and more family. And it incorporated everything. They had to find a dinosaur, the ancestor to kidnap, so each of them go back to media for time. To France, to the American Revolution, to stay all of their family, so to keep their family in sync. And they end with the beautiful hug between Paul and Vin Diesel because we miss them for those movies, and it's family more important than.
Okay.
Both of these movies directed by Michael Bay, if you can't tell.
Well, both of you, if one of you both of you put it in your main arguments right here, you could have done it, but it's not.
No, like, listen, we went too overboard already with the arguments. That Michael Bay comment doesn't count, but we know Michael Bay's already first in line.
Well, they can count because you said both these movies directed. So
yeah, exactly. So
you're giving yourself each other the same.
Mine would have been Robert Zemeckis because fuck it, we need.
Oh God.
All right, guys,
I hate this so much.
I'm good.
Hey, I'm sorry, real quick, but if that does happen, Michael Bay, then Paul Walker would have wrote in on Optimus Prime. Just saying.
All right.
With a can of Red Bull and wearing Beats headphones.
Inside the DeLorean, instead of putting trash in there, they just put a Corona upside down, and they say, "This is the fuel we need."
All right. Let's go to our judges real quick. Start with Joe, right here. Who gets the point? Quickly.
Chris gets the point. I mean, look, Madeeh said from the start that it was ridiculous and stupid, but Chris pointed out everything. You're just repeating the plot of Armageddon. And he brought in, when he mentioned that Back to the Future was all about saving family, he really linked it. Look, this is no bias on the fact that in a Nerd Fights, I also said that Back to the Future should cross over with Fast and Furious. I lost that argument, so the argument is getting a win at some point. But yeah, just he mentioned that the impossible tech's already been established by the other movies. He mentioned that he even said you described the plot and you didn't help yourself, to be honest. Yeah, Chris gets the point.
All right. Okay, I'll be short and sweet though. Chris gets the point for me because he explains his got a natural plot, but yours is Armageddon, by cards, and nothing else. So I'll keep it short and sweet on that one. All right. I'll give my point to Chris. With that, Chris avoids the knockout. JB3, would your point would have been different or the same?
I'll tell you this, Chris brought his game. My point would have been different, I think, if Madeeh would have swapped his intro and his outro.
Yeah.
If he would have put his beginning where his end was and his end where his beginning was, he might have knocked him out for that because his ending, man, I couldn't do anything about it, but I loved it. But yeah, Chris brought it. I really liked how he tied everything in with the family, and it was kind of crazy because Madeeh was doing family because, he doesn't like it, the movie. So he was making fun of the movie, but then Chris actually did some good stuff. But yeah, I gave it to Chris too.
I'm sorry to all you Fast and Furious fans, but those movies are awful.
One thing I was waiting for from Madeeh, just to try and hit Chris's argument a little bit, was just to say no, because if they have time travel, they will have to reference Paul Walker. They will have to. There would have to be something, and it would ruin the movie. If they made a point like that, it could have been closer.
Oh yeah, fair enough.
All right, at that, Chris avoids the knockout. We got two.
You can tell how much effort I put into the research of that argument.
Right.
I could have watched a Fast and Furious movie, and I was like, I'd really rather not. I'd really rather just do anything else.
All right, let's go to round number 4. Round number 4 is the category of actors and actresses, and this is an interesting question, and depends which way you want to go with. And the question is this: actors or / actresses had the best performance after a slew of bad or / poorly received or box office failures. So this is Madeeh's strength right here. Let's go with him for his selection.
I'm going to get my extension on this intro, if you don't mind.
All right. He's going to use his 1-minute extension.
JP, you're driving me crazy, man. All right. So when you think of the greatest actors of all time, there's a couple names that come up on that list. And one of them would be Al Pacino. Now, for those of you who are younger than 20, Al Pacino is not a name that you would know because he, for predominantly in the 70s and 80s and quite a bit of the 90s, was one of the greatest actors that we had ever seen. I'll give you from 1976 to 1980, he was nominated for 4 different Academy Awards in terms of his acting for Godfather, Godfather 2, and then there was Serpico and Scarface. He's an iconic actor. He finally won after 7 nominations in 1993 for Scent of a Woman. Next time he was nominated was in the movie I'm picking his comeback for, 2020's The Irishman. In between 1990s and 2020, he only really had a couple of good films. Most of his good work was done on stage, so it doesn't really count for Movie Battlegrounds, or it was done with TV work. So in terms of movies, all he was known for was being nominated 4 times for the Razzies instead of the Oscars. His reputation had gone down, the level of respect that we had for him had gone down, and he even won a Razzie for Jack and Jill, which is, in my opinion, probably the worst movie I've ever seen in my life. The other movies he was nominated for, Geely, which is, up until then, the worst movie I'd ever seen, 88 Minutes, which was awful, and also for Righteous Kill, which everyone thought was going to be good, but was kind of like the last knife in the back of people thinking he was done. To give you a kind of clue of how far he descended in just a short time, 1997, Empire Magazine put him as number 4 of the greatest movie stars of all time. And then as soon as 2005, so less than 10 years, he dropped down to 37 in various other magazines. Throughout the 2000s, he was in the 20-year period before The Irishman, he was in 17 movies which had a Rotten Tomato score of less than 60%. So not fresh movies at all. The only movie that did well, both financially and critically in that time, was Insomnia, which came out in 2003. And then up until The Irishman came out, he wasn't considered a serious actor. When The Irishman came out, he showed who he was. He showed that he was still Al Pacino. He showed that he was still one of the baddest motherfuckers that ever walked this planet.
All right. We got Al Pacino's performance from The Irishman, Jimmy Hoffa himself. Idiots. All right. I'm doing my voice for Al Pacino for that movie. So, all right. Let's go with Chris for his selection.
Okay, when I was looking at this, I went with one that had a great comeback in 2008. After that, before then, he was doing a bad movie, doing a couple of bad movies, doing a financial flop despite being critically acclaimed, and a bad criminal history that prevented him from getting work. I got with Robert Downey Jr. for Iron Man. Robert Downey Jr. before Iron Man had a bad history of criminal activity, drugs, alcohol, all of that prevented him from getting work. He sort of had a resurgence a little bit with Zodiac, financial flop. Probably about like great movie, financial flop. He also had bad movie like Shaggy-Dog. Awful. Godzilla, I think the name of Halle Berry. Awful. But he was slowly getting work, but nobody would yet to hire him. Enter Jon Favreau, who started the MCU with Iron Man. He ran out and died. And yet everybody bit a judgment and cast Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man. And that was his research career. That brought him back in the limelight. That started his whole continuing a great movie after great movie. Without him, Robert Downey Jr. would be the name. We wouldn't have Iron Man. We would not have the MCU. We would not have anything. His performance in Iron Man is fantastic. For the aggregate, his antagonist persona, to the way that he redeemed himself, to relationship with Pepper, to I am Iron Man. It brought Robert Downey Jr. back in my life.
All right. We got RDJ versus Pacino. 2 very capable actors right here who will deserve comeback performances. All right. Let's start with the 5-minute debate. Well, why don't you begin talking?
Okay, Madeeh, I don't put you right there. Al Pacino also had Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Yes, small role, but he was really good. He had Danny Collins.
Time in Hollywood, he was in there for 2 minutes. It doesn't really count. It was a cameo. Danny Collins made $10 million on a $10 million budget. Nobody saw it.
It's not a good movie.
Yeah, but if you're going to go down that route, Robert Downey Jr. was also in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which broke even, but he was great in it. Yeah. He was also in Tropic Thunder, which came out a little bit later that year, but it was a better performance in terms of an actual performance.
No.
Yeah, he was. He was nominated for an Academy Award.
He was nominated, but you ever think Iron Man made his career resurgent. It brought the MCU, brought who he
You're
was.
Also forgetting that Robert Downey Jr. was also involved in Zodiac, which was a good movie, and he was. It didn't make a lot of money, but it made a fair amount of money. He was also in a supporting role in Good Night and Good Luck, which won a bunch of Oscars. And yeah, it was a smaller role, but he was still really good in it, and it was a great movie, made a lot of money.
It was still like all of them still didn't do that. Well, Zodiac was a box office disappointment by many. Despite
It was
how
a
good
disappointment, but it still made money. It made about 30 million plus on its budget. So
and we took
90
it through
million,
like
give or take, on a 60
we took it
million
all
budget.
day with through like Al Pacino and Robert Downey Jr. When you look at Resurgence, Robert Downey Jr., we would not have the MCU the way it is today. Robert Downey Jr. performance.
It wouldn't be the same, no. But I will say this, and
But he played out with
this may be a little hated by some people in the fan community, but if you're just isolating it to Iron Man, just the first movie,
yeah,
it's not the same Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man performance that we see in the other movies. His performance doesn't just span that hour, 45-minute movie. It spans the 10 years that the MCU went, right?
But Al
so because
Pacino
you got to include Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3, Avengers. Avengers, the first movie was when his character really, for me, took shape as to who he was as a character.
But Iron Man, it's showing him as his antagonist. It's showing him as his down low.
But
it's showing
here's the thing: the Irishman does that in a full movie for all of the characters
Al
involved.
Pacino just
Al Pacino.
listen, at times,
you cannot diss Al Pacino's performance.
Al Pacino
in The Irishman.
Joe Pesci gave a much better performance.
That's very arguable. I watched that movie.
Joe Pesci come back as well because he hasn't done working yet. I would make more arguments.
Here's the thing.
Robert De Niro, who gave a much better performance.
I don't think so. I think Robert De Niro had more to do, but I don't think he had a better performance. I think Joe Pesci's performance was brilliant, but I don't think it was better than Al Pacino's. I think Al Pacino in this film carried this film in such a way because not only was it something of a resurgence, because you didn't see Al Pacino like this for 20 years. 20 years, all of a sudden, Al Pacino comes back and you're like, holy shit. We remember that this guy was the Godfather. We remember that he was
good stuff in
Tony Montana.
Yeah.
Al Pacino came back into the public eye as a respectable figure in this movie.
Same thing with
Robert Downey Jr. was in other movies as a respectable figure. People saw him in Zodiac. $90 million worth of people saw him in Zodiac. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang did not make a lot of money, but it's a cult classic and people love it. Good Night and Good Luck, people saw him, and that made like $60 million over on a budget of $7 million.
Calm down. All right, calm down. Let's have a 5 second. Let's just okay, Chris. Good talk here. 5, 4, each one. All right, Chris.
Let me state it. Al Pacino's career was a download. Robert Downey Jr.'s career before Iron Man was download. Nobody would hire him because of his criminal record. Don Favreau went out and died. People told him no. Do not hire Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man. He ran out of time behind him. And you're talking about
I gotta disagree with that.
Did not show emotion. The thing with Pepper, his emotion low point. The thing with him and
I didn't say he didn't show emotion.
It's still the process of what made Robert Downey Jr. a great actor. It's still
Robert Downey Jr. was already cast in Tropic Thunder before Iron Man even came out, so people were willing to take shots on him before it came out.
But
and Sherlock Holmes. He was cast in Sherlock Holmes before Iron Man came out. So people were willing to take a shot on him. It was just they hadn't seen him in action.
Al Pacino still giving decent performance with Paterno, Danny Collins.
Paterno was a TV movie. It was on TV.
You guys have not seen Danny Collins. Really good Al Pacino.
Danny Collins made $10 million on a $10 million budget, and nobody saw it.
It's the same thing with
Holland. My dad saw my dad saw The Irishman, and he loved it. He thought Al Pacino finally came back.
All right. Okay. This question got very heated indeed. All right. Let's just go with Chris for his closing.
I'm going to use my 1 minute extension.
Noted.
All right. He's going to use his 1 minute extension.
Yeah.
All right. Timer begins when you begin talking.
We could go all day about who could we have a better, that have financial flop career could flop. We could go all day. But when you look at what Robert Downey Jr. was before Iron Man, he was on the down low. He was good in movies, yes, but a lot of directors were still not really high him. But John Favreau gave him career to resurgence. Iron Man restarted his career. Before that, he had a Academy Award nomination for Chaplin in the 90s. Other than that, started career. It led him to get worldwide trumpets on it. Sherlock, everything else he's been in. But it was a great performance from Robert Downey Jr. When you see in the moment with Peppers, with a fantastic relationship. I am Iron Man. The thing where that bridge is standing over him and take his reacted out, and he's struggling, and you see Robert Downey Jr. eyes being fearful and emotion, like he's scared. And also, very funny, the MySpace line, the Burger King line. There's so many stuff that made Robert Downey Jr. the way he is, and I think when it comes to film, you look at the performance out, not what also research is good. Iron Man was the research, and what gave it MT, what gave Robert Downey Jr. a new line. Al Pacino is good in the movie. Supporting role. Joe Pesci, I think, gave him a much better performance in it. Without the overacting, without the yelling. Like, Joe Pesci is what it is, the more famous line than any line for Al Pacino in The Irishman. And when you look at what started career, Al Pacino's career still probably will struggle in the next couple of years because he still spit bad movie after bad movie. Robert Downey Jr.'s career to sharp line in it, and we know him today as Iron Man and Sherlock, as Tropic Thunder, but Iron Man what gave us to fall in love with Robert Downey Jr. again. And Robert Downey Jr. said, shall we talk about Shaggy Dog? Shall we talk about Shaggy Dog? I don't think so. But it's still like when you see a bad performance and it's thing I pointed out, and I just leave it with one line only. I am Iron Man. Best line from Robert Downey.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go into Madeeh's closing real quick. Timer begins. We begin talking.
If you're talking about Robert Downey Jr.'s performance as Iron Man in just the first movie, it's incomplete. He's good in it, but it becomes complete over the course of the next 10 years. Al Pacino regained our respect. After 20 years of not having it, he regained our respect. Now, as a recovering alcoholic myself, I can sympathize with what Robert Downey Jr. went through during his career, but let's be real, he was still getting jobs and he was still getting some respect by Shane Black, who did it. Joel Silver was helping him. Mel Gibson was helping him. A lot of guys were helping him, and then nobody was helping Al Pacino, really, until all of a sudden Robert De Niro and Martin Scorsese approached him for The Irishman, and he blows it out of the park. If you're talking about a comeback, Robert Downey Jr.'s comeback came from some bad movies and more from personal stuff. Al Pacino's came from two of the worst movies of all time to The Irishman, where he did phenomenal work. Joe Pesci was great in that movie, but Al Pacino really was the heart of the movie. When he died, spoiler alert, you felt it. I was talking to my brothers the other day. That went down as one of the saddest moments in this scene.
Okay. All right, let's go into the... So let's write down the answer.
This was a hard argument. I love both choices. Yeah,
I have about 2 pages of notes just on this argument alone. Like this one was nuts.
And you guys had not seen Danny Collins, please check it out. It's actually a really good performance from Pacino there.
And also, by the way, this is not sort of movie related, but it's sort of, he was very good in the TV show Hunters on Amazon.
Yeah,
he was.
Jack Shapiro, the HBO movie, I think it's Jack Shapiro. He was very good in it as well.
All right.
He's done a couple of things on TV that were good, but this is Movie Battleground, so.
Oh, yeah, Movie Battleground. Sorry. All right.
Can't count TV stuff in here.
Yeah. All right. With that, let's go to the first point. Just going to start off with me. I think for me, though, based on the arguments themselves and basically what defines a bigger of a comeback than majority of it, based on sort of the notoriety, and some people might give it more of a chance or at least have a chance. That's what I was toying back and forth on right here, but I think the person who gets the point for me is Madeeh, because he put some examples why Al Pacino brought the time, didn't get very much bigger, bigger movies along with it than the previous film, then kind of let him to be right here. And he will knock on Chris, though, that Robert Downey Jr. did get some chances, even after he dealt with the personal stuff. He's still getting movies right here. He's still getting respect for big Hollywood titans around that point, though. So he was a good knock right here. So I'm going to go with Madeeh, though. So we got one on Madeeh. Let's go into Joe Farrelly right here. It's up to you. You want to get the point Madeeh to the win, or want to move on to JB to move to give it the crush right here so I have a tiebreaker. So what do you think?
This is really tough because it came down into my head about where I felt about the argument, because you have Madeeh who is arguing about why the comeback was better because of Al Pacino's history in the 70s and the 80s with his Oscar nominations, and then going into the Razzie nominations, and then having that performance in The Irishman, whereas Chris was focused on the actual performance itself. And it was nearly Chris was nearly out, but when he brought up the Oscar nomination for Chaplin, he did say why it was a comeback. Because before, it was just about the performance and the bad stuff before. He didn't mention any of the good stuff until he brought up the Oscar nom for Chaplin. When he brought that up, he won the argument for me, so I'm giving my point to Chris.
Okay. It's 1-1 tie. Okay, JV3, you're the deciding factor right here. You want the point to the win, or you're going to speed round?
I would just want to say, I'll start off. Let me get a drink. It's a very big moment. Both use their extensions like very, very well. I was excited for that. I thought both answers were very good answers. I mean, you got two of the best actors in the history of acting, just to be honest. Both brought a lot of great points. In the end, I gave the person that I gave my point to just because they just had a little bit more examples for me. It was just a couple more examples, and that person who gets my point is Madeeh.
Fucking hell. Jesus, man, what it put me on like suspense here. Jeez.
Sorry. Yeah, you guys both did great. Thank you so much for letting me judge.
Okay, with that, and your winner, Madeeh. Congratulations, Madeeh. Finally, after a long time coming right here, had to do Movie Battleground very long time. You finally come back and score a W.
Pulling an Al Pacino comeback right here. No, I'm feeling good. Chris, first and foremost, for a debut, hell of a job, man. I tend to go 110% when I'm competing, which is probably why they asked me not to compete for a while as well. Let's be real, because we did get slightly heated a few times. Subrath will remember sometimes that I did go a little bit overboard, but that's not the point. But no, first and foremost, man, you did a hell of a job. Really great debut. I'm excited to see what you keep doing in this league. Judges, thank you guys for donating your time and helping us out here. But I'm glad to be back. Glad to get the rust off. I'll do a couple more while I still have time during the summer holidays and everything, if you guys will let me.
All right.
And I'm my heart's still pounding, so I'm gonna give it a minute to rest down, and then, I'll probably go take a shit or something because I really have a lot of stress right now. But that's just my own personal issues. You guys don't need to dwell on that.
All right. Also, before I sign off to Chris, is any player around Movie Battleground that you want to call of a challenge with, since you might come back?
Honestly, there's no one I'm gonna go out of my way on calling. This is just my first time, but I'm honestly just excited to be back for a little bit. But if anyone is just looking for a match, wants to have fun, doesn't mind getting heated, as you've seen in this match, and if you've seen my previous matches, you know that I'll give you 110% no matter what. Like, I go into my arguments and I'll go for it. Other than Fast and Furious, but I mean, I'm willing to go toe to toe with anybody. Nobody scares me. Nobody like that. As long as it's a good match, I'm gonna have fun.
All right, very good. All right, let's go to the second placer, Chris Diaz, right here. Chris, you were very close from making a comeback. You came very close, and you just want to say, I get it. This is your very first match in Movie Battleground. You will be back right here, and basically you will eventually make a bounce back. So for right now, how you feeling right now, and how you been doing?
This one tough. I think that's one of my better debate I had in a while, because these stuff I'm very passionate about compared to a lot of stuff. And I love movies, and this was a tough fight. I knew the Al Pacino and Robert Downey Jr. would be a tough battle to fight against. It's just like, and the Watchmen, and great choice for the Watchmen. And that, I do love that scene. It's a just subjective problem with the question sometimes. It's like what's considered, combat performance was considered best action sequences. Like, but it was a good fight. I shot once again. I won my point on the Fast and Furious question. I think this becoming yeah. It's just like looking forward to. There are a few people I trust his face down the road. Like, and make a good comeback. I think now I know what to focus on, and who I want to have the idea who I want to face. Like, I want to make Madeeh then down the line and show him my Iron Man-ish.
All right. With that, is any person you want to call in Movie Battleground that you want to call in a challenge with in a future match?
I mean, this year, Amaru, I think that Joe here would love to face him, maybe. I think me and him would have an interesting intellectual debate. And a few others, like, it's tough. I need to look at who was on the list of playing on here to see who I want to really face.
All right. Okay, then. All right. Congratulations, Chris. You'll be back in Movie Battleground right here. We ain't seen the last of you on this fight. And let's go to our judges right here. JB3. This is a very good match. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, I totally agree. Chris, man, just to let everyone know, I'm gonna swear now. Okay, Chris, you know your shit. Every question, you prove that you know what you're talking about. Even the Fast and the Furious craziness, you found a way to tie that together. Like, but yeah, I think if anything, experience. From if there's anything I could say, it was experience. But D brought his game. He was in pure form. I mean, like, I think that every reaction, he has really good reactions, and he's very smooth with how he interrupts people. So a lot of skill, and I think a lot of it comes with experience. So congratulations, and I think it was a wonderful match.
I'll take that as a compliment, JB3. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Top Fuzz. Same thing with you.
That was an incredible match. I did kind of feel like the odd judge out because I've noticed that I've actually given Chris 3 of the points here, but that's just sometimes you just hear something in an argument that you like and you stick with it, and if you don't get the counter to it, then that's pretty much where you go with it. But these two both incredible. They really were. I mean, apart from the Fast and Furious one, they really were neck and neck, and it's a testament to the abilities of both these players about how close this hat off to both of you. Absolutely fantastic. Look forward to facing either of you at some point.
All right, with that, I think this is the perfect time for us to sign off right here. From me, to JB3, to Hot Fuzz, to Chris, to Madeeh. Just want to say, stay safe, everyone. Everyone wash your hands. Be nice to each other. Take care. Goodbye, everybody.